Hey everybody, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, and we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I have with me professional wrestler and one half, or sometimes one third, maybe even one fourth of the Miracle Generation, Dustin Waller. So welcome to the show.
Man, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
I have been eyeing you for a while, and then obviously you saw my Twitter message, and then obviously 2 weeks ago something happened, and last week something happened with me. But we're here finally. Finally, stars have a line. Thank God. Um,
Yeah, I know.
and you know, you had a crazy year. You and Kylon had a crazy year. Ichiban had a crazy year, and obviously, I'm really thought that you were definitely one of the teams that stood out in Wrestling Open this year. Um,
Oh, thank
and
you very
I
much.
want to talk about that because Wrestling Open 2022, I felt, was your real shining moment. But that's not where this started. It started at the back end of 2021 with the Discovery Gauntlet. And so, what was this like coming into Beyond Wrestling, Uncharted Territory, and then really coming over to Wrestling Open, where you and a bunch of other people really got an opportunity that was long overdue?
Yeah, it was. It really just happened so fast. Like we wrestled the Shook Crew a little bit before that. And they recommended us to go up to. They said, we obviously knew of Beyond Wrestling and we knew of the Discovery Gauntlet, and they're like, well, they're doing a tag team one this year, so you really never know what could happen. Like it's literally a tag team. They try to discover tag teams, so go for it. And we weren't really tagging that much because me and Kailan started as singles wrestlers. And we trained together, so we came up in the business together. So we always had really good chemistry. We became really good friends. We hung out all the time. And when we were brought the idea by Test of Strength Wrestling, Slick Wagner Brown, he was like, "Do you guys want to try teaming up?" And we were like, "Sure, screw it, just let's try something new." Because we always joked around like, "Oh, it'd be cool if we could be a tag team, that'd be cool." But we never thought it'd ever happen. So then when Chick Crew asked us, they're like, "Oh, you should go up there and try it out." So we will forever be thankful for Bobby and Bryce for that, because we were like, yeah, I guess we'll go up there, we'll check it out. We go help with the ring. We met Drew, and we met all the guys and girls that were there wrestling on Uncharted, and we were kind of like just lost in this, like, whoa, this is really cool. Like we watch all this stuff, like we know of IWTV, we know of Beyond Wrestling, obviously, and now we're here, not even wrestling yet. We're just helping with the ring crew week in and week out. Like we were there every single week. Like that was what made us stand out to everyone else that was there. Is that there were guys and girls that were going, but like maybe not every week. We were there on Thanksgiving night for their Thanksgiving show. And I think that was like, wait, these guys aren't even wrestling tonight. Well, like, why are they here on Thanksgiving? Like it was just stuff like that, to the point where Drew was like, "Are you guys a tag team?" And we're like, "Yeah, yes, we are." And he was like, "Do you guys want to do the Discovery Gauntlet?" Yes, absolutely. And it was us versus Brick City Boys, who was another team that we saw like grow up like with us. So it was really cool to come full circle, and then to beat Brick City Boys, and then to go to Restival and be above the rest and have one of the craziest matches we've ever had. The first time and the only, or no, the second time, but it was the first time in our careers that money's been thrown in the ring. And that was insane after our match with Above the Rest. Like that match really, I believe, put us on the map, like you said, at that year's Restival. That really just changed everything for us. So it really happened so fast, but it felt so long when it was happening. But now I feel like it was last night.
So let's even talk a little bit about this because there's a concept, and I come from the world of comics. Obviously, I've been interviewing people for almost 10 years, and there's a concept where you have to pay your dues and you really
Mm-hmm.
have to put in the work. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of people, and there's a generation that wants instant credit, I guess, cation is a word, or
Mm-hmm.
instant gratification and everything now, and they don't want to put in the work. And you and Kylon obviously were showing up and setting up chairs, taking the ring down, making sure everything was operating, doing whatever needed to get done. Because when you're running a wrestling show, it's complicated. And so, what was this like putting in that work and then actually it being seen? And it not only being seen by Drew, but a bunch of other people too. And then getting your opportunity because you were there. And then because you put in that work, if you didn't put in that work and you just showed up once, that opportunity might not have come. And I think it's a really good lesson for a lot of people in wrestling and in life that you have to pay your dues because you never know who's watching, and people do get rewarded when they pay their dues and they're respectful in a lot of ways.
No, absolutely, 100%. Like and they say it on commentary, like they used to say it on commentary, like, and they still do. when we had that match with Brick City Boys, you could hear Sidney Bacabella and Paul Crockett on commentary. Like, these are the guys that last week were sitting in front of me grabbing water for us. Like, they were picking up the chairs, they were putting the ring together, they were taking it down. They were here. They were the first ones to show up and the last ones to leave. And that was real. Like, that's as real as it gets. Like, people were like, "Oh, that's a cool little thing." No, that's not a cool. That's real. That's what we did for the however many months we were there, just setting up the ring, tearing it down, literally just there, just to be there. And it is true. Like, you have, like, and everyone knows that in wrestling you have to pay your dues, and that's not even just in wrestling. That's just in life. Whatever you do, whatever job you have, you always have to start from the bottom and make your way up. There's always those few instances where some people will get the instant success, and that's great. I have no hate towards that, but paying your dues is always great because you're like what was it? Undertaker's Hall of Fame speech. He said, the heads that you step on the way on the way to the top are the asses you're gonna. Yes, the toes you step on the way to the top are the asses you're gonna kiss on the way down. Like, it's you have to pay your dues. You have to show everyone the same level of respect.
There's a famous interview I did with Eric Scott Kimmer, who's a wrestler, and he's also a voice actor, and he wrestles for Brian Kendrick's promotion out in L.A. Mm-hmm. And I didn't interview him for the wrestling side. I interviewed him because he's a voice actor. I'm a huge anime fan, and he was bringing that up even about voice acting, is that if you step on people's toes and you are disrespectful and you don't pay your dues, you better be ready to kiss a lot of ass, because it's going to come down. And, in the comic world, we're starting to see it. And so it's very interesting how you two have really paid that respect. And then obviously you're rewarded. And then you had the Festival, and then obviously Uncharted Territory disappeared, which, I think was a shame, because I thought Uncharted Territory was great with Boston and Massachusetts and, Worcester and all those places. But then Wrestling Open happened. And what was that like? Because I don't know exactly when you came into Wrestling Open, but I think, were you on the soft opening, or was it Wrestling Open 2?
Yeah, we were there since the soft opening. I was actually, there was supposed to be a show on the Festival. I believe it was Blitzkrieg, but this is when the second wave of COVID came in and everyone started getting it. I think they shut their show down for the third day of Festival. And Drew was like, "Screw it, we're going to debut this thing right here. We're going to have the soft opening right here." So episode 1, to me, is technically episode 2, because the soft opening happened. And you have people that are on the show now that were on the soft opening. And Wrestling Open was just this idea that Drew just had. I could tell he's had it for a while, but he approached me and Kylon with it during Uncharted. And he was more just like, "Hey, let me just pitch you this little thing I got. Like, this is the idea I have. It goes like this, it goes like this." And we're just like, "Yeah, sure." Like, what do you want to say? No? Like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll be here if you want to run something every week, we'll be here to do it. I don't we don't give a damn what the pay is. Like, we don't care. Like, we just want to be here. Like you said, wrestling in this building, which is a legendary wrestling building, the White Eagle. So doing the soft opening, we actually main evented, and we wrestled with Ricky Shane Page and Vincent Nothing. And I think that was a big test for us from Drew, because we still really didn't talk to him that much. He didn't really know us that well. He just knew us. We helped with the ring, and he put us on Uncharted, and we were on a good chunk of the Festival. And then facing Ricky and Vincent was awesome, because they're great. They're like, and that match really was good for us, because I know Ricky put in a good word for us, because he told us earlier that day, he's like, "If you guys aren't good, I'm not gonna talk well about you." And I'm like, "Well, there we go. That you gotta be real with it. You gotta be real." And I think the opportunities that me and Kylon got, we just didn't fail on. And that's really what captivated us, is like every opportunity we got, we just hit. It was just hitting and hitting and hitting. And Wrestling Open was just, no one knew what it was going to be. You had all these guys like myself, Kylon, Ichiban, like you got Clancy, Stetson, Orlando, Donovan. You got all these guys, singles, tags. And it all started out with 50 people there were the first day. First few weeks, maybe there was 50, 60 people. And now we got 150, 250. Then it was 350. And we're like, wait, this is crazy. This is growing tremendously. I'll go back and watch some of the old episodes. Like me and Alec Price at episode, I think 2 it was we'll watch the episode back and just be like, wow, this is crazy how insanely this has grown. And I did a podcast yesterday, and I said the same thing of we're growing our own wrestling fan base. They're not wrestling fans. They know wrestling as the Shook Crew. They know Miracle Generation. They know Ichiban. They know the Stetson Ranch. They don't know half of the people that wrestle for WWE because they don't even watch it. They just
See,
wanted to come to a bar.
too, because I don't know how you watch WWE, but I only watch the pay-per-views, right? I don't really care about Monday Night Raw. I don't care about SmackDown. I don't really care about NXT. I have an idea what's going on. When Mandy Rose got fired, it was hard not to know what happened. It's just because it's just news in wrestling. I know what's going on. When Cody Rhodes left AEW, I knew what was going on, but I didn't watch it. And I haven't watched AEW. I haven't watched a Monday Night Raw probably in 5 years. I'm going to watch the Royal Rumble because why wouldn't I watch that? But again, that's like 3 hours at most. But I'm watching a lot of independent wrestling. And I think it's very interesting because I don't think it's a great product, WWE right now. I think it's a great media company. I think they aren't sloppy, but I don't think the storylines are good. I don't think it's innovative. I don't think that it is connected that it used to 10 years ago. While you look at Wrestling Open, you look at, Blitzkrieg, you look at Grime Pro, you look at all these companies, you look at Prestige Out West, all of a sudden, there's more, I feel the hustle is there. You feel like those guys and those girls want to earn your money. And I feel like with WWE and AEW, they don't want to earn my money anymore because they have it. And that's a real deficit. And I think it's so interesting that you brought that up because I feel that if you don't perform on a weekend Wrestling Open, I might not tune in the next week. And I feel like it's a real driving factor because there's still things to be proven with Wrestling Open.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's so many things that we still have to grow on, but just see how quickly it's grown, being now a year, and now having this like I said, our own fan base of wrestlers that know strictly us and the people that wrestle there. Because some of them were just people that don't even know what wrestling is at all. They showed up because they were downstairs at the restaurant, and then they're like, "Oh, let's go upstairs to the bar." And then they see this giant just square with ropes on it, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" And then they see these cool people doing cool stuff, and it really shows to them like who they can really attract themselves to, because they're not here like, "Oh, that guy's a good wrestler," because they don't even know what wrestling is. Some people like Bobby Orlando because he comes out with a go. Like people like us because we run through the crowd and try and connect with
I
them.
love Ray Jazz. I love Ray Jazz. I think Ray Jazz is the dick that everybody kind of wants to be, but you really can't be that in life. And I think he's great. And I think he embodies that so well. And yet he's so good that you really can't fault him for being a bad wrestler. You want to hate him, but it's hard to say he's not talented. And like, I can relate to that, and I think a lot of people can. I think that's something that's super interesting. Bobby Orlando is fun because, he comes out with a goat. I think, to some degree, and we were going to mention a bad name here, Midas Black and Jay Lyon, when they had the circus gimmick, that was great. That was great. Obviously, I'm joking. I have no animosity to Midas Black and Jay Lyon, but you guys might. I don't know. It's Pedro's fault. That's the problem.
Yes, absolutely Pedro's fault. But yeah, like everyone connects with them their own way. Like you said, Bobby, like main event, like they really find a way to connect with who they are interested in. Like what do the fans do now? Like when Stetson comes out, they just turn their back and flip him off. That's crazy.
Brother Greatness is great too. I mean, he comes out with the basket and people put a loaf of bread, they put the fish, and they put a baby in there.
That's one of the greatest moments I think in Wrestling Open is his face when they put their newborn baby in there. Because those are very consistent fans. Those people that come, and when they were going because they had their baby, they had a cardboard cutout in the crowd of themselves. So like when they came with their newborn and put it in the basket, it was just so hilarious because Greatness was like, "What? Like what? This? What is going on?"
That was the moment of the year, and I was so disappointed that didn't win an award. And I was like, I'm like, if this was ever the moment, this is like the moment that is a gift moment. This is the moment that any time, like this thing was just unbelievable. And we spoke about it. Me and Brother Greatness spoke about it in length. And I'm like, this is brilliant. This was the most brilliant thing that's ever happened in Wrestling Open. Undisputed. Not saying that there hasn't been great matches, but I think it is going to be very hard to top it. I can only think of one thing that'll top it, and that's BRG riding a horse to the ring.
Yeah.
which I may or may not be creating a petition for that. I'm sorry. Clip Clop needs to be upgraded, everybody. It's just the way it's going to happen. But I digress. I think it's so interesting. And then, I mean, you've had, I think you've only missed like 8 wrestling opens for all of 2022. And so
Yeah.
that's crazy too, where that's a lot of wrestling consistently. And you've had a bunch of single matches. I think you had Alec Price that you mentioned. And then you've gone against Bobby Orlando and Alec Price and Mortar with the Miracle Generation. Obviously, you faced Austin Luke, Marcus Matter, Reed Walker. And then I think you had Marcus Matters at Monkey Business. And then obviously just a bunch of stuff with the Stenson Ranch, which is, BRG, Ryan Clancy, Steven Stenson, and then BRG alone, and then Danny Miles. I mean, it's unbelievable how many rivalries you have had with all these teams that are now stables in them. And so what was that like? Because, I mean, you and the Stenson Ranch have gone to war over 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to like have all these really cool, not just matches, because one-off matches are cool, but like you love telling a good story. Like stories are great. That's why, love or hate main event and like Pedro and Brad. But this story that we told leading up to the steel cage match was crazy.
We're
It
going
was
to
a
talk
lot of fun.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, so like I love a good story. So like wrestling with Stetson Ranch is great because they're not wrestlers that do what me and Kailan do, and we're not wrestlers that do what they do. So when the styles clash, it's really a good match, and it's a good story to tell because love them or hate them, they're both really good wrestlers. Stetson and Brett are really good wrestlers, and like you said, I've had some really cool singles matches. I've been able to wrestle Brad at singles. I've wrestled Alec. I got to wrestle Wheeler Yuta, and his only appearance at Open. Like I've
Yeah,
had
we're going to
some
talk about
really
that match too. That was a big deal too. On that
yeah,
Wheeler.
story. I definitely love stories over just a throwaway match for sure.
Yeah, because one of the things that I really like about the Stenson Ranch in particular is that, they have a personality that makes them hated. And their personality carries them just as much as their skill in the ring. And it's very cool when they go out and they do that. And then even how he has an enforcer, and then even how he's sort of ducking and how he's playing the cheating. And it's really nice to see, wrestling actually also play a psychological game with it too, because sometimes wrestlers don't do that, or sometimes they don't know how to do that. And that makes a match a hell of a lot more interesting. There's been plenty of that in your matches with them. And what has that been like? Because now I'm invested, and then you go and do another match, and then we have the Elimination Cup on the line. And then we have the tag team title Elimination Cup stuff on the line too with this team. And what was that like? Because now there's more at stake, and there's also a history. And that's what makes these matches so good is it started off meaning nothing, and then it started meaning something.
Yeah, absolutely. Like starting off wrestling them in the Eliminator Cup tournament, that was our first time ever sharing the ring together as a tag team with them. So it was a good match, and thinking that it's not going to be anything until they come down the road and say, "Hey, now we want these belts that you have." So now it's more of a story that you can tell with the fans of like, "Wait, are they going to actually lose the belts now?" Because these guys have been kicking ass every single week. So this might be an actual threat to the champs. So like, it's really cool to have even the fans like have that sense of doubt. Like, wait, okay, I have to tune in now because I don't want to see Miracle Generation lose. Like, are they going to lose? Are they going to win? What's going to happen? Like, same thing with the singles. Even if, like, I think it's great now. Now they have a championship, but I think it's great when they didn't have like the singles or tag championships because that's what Beyond Wrestling did. There was nothing to fight for. It was just everyone having these really good matches and stories. And I do think that belts are a good addition because again, you do have something to fight for. Like even with the singles guys now, like you had Ichi always being quote unquote the underdog, and now he's not an underdog no more. Everyone knows that when Ichiban gets in the ring, he's gonna kick some ass, no matter who it is. He can be like you see him wrestle Brian Malonis, and some of the fans are like, "Oh yeah, he's bigger, but Ichiban, he got this. Like he's good." So like it's definitely cool to see the fans' perspective of like what they're seeing when we try to tell these stories.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Which I actually like companies when they don't have belts. I don't like belts. I think belts make things complicated sometimes, And I really just want to see good wrestling. And one of the things that I've liked about Wrestling Open, I came late to Wrestling Open. So I didn't really buy into it until it was in its fifth, sixth month. Because like, this is could go either way, I felt. And I wanted to see where I was going to land. And there was a lot of other stuff going on. I was taking a wrestling break from a lot of things. But I liked that they didn't have a belt. And I'm a little happy but unhappy about it too, because I'm like, great, now the belt is going to take center stage versus having, the best of five match between Ryan Clancy and Danny Miles. I thought that was great because I thought that was just about pride. I thought it was about respect. I thought it was about, am I better than you? And that was my whole thing, is that, and that's what I feel belts sometimes take away from, is that we're now fighting for a piece of gold, but instead of fighting for pride or who's the better wrestler. But I think it'll be good overall, but I definitely feel like some of that's going to be lost in Wrestling Open. But that's just my opinion. But what do I know? I'm not a wrestler yet, so never say never. Never say never, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then I also want to talk about the Church of Greatness, because you've had some serious wars with them too. And I know the Haven was involved, and obviously everybody is in the Church of Greatness at one point or another. And so what was that like? Because I think you've gone through every iteration of the Church of Greatness.
Yeah, we have. I think from the first ever group of church to now, maybe not the last one because we're not involved with this one, but earlier on, like in the early episodes of Wrestling Open, we would wrestle them like every single week in every variation of them, whether it was like Sammy Diaz and Elijah Six, Brother Greatness, Jay Haru, Perfect Perkins. You got all these guys and girls that came in. We wrestled Anastasia. Like we've definitely seen the church go from what it was to now what it is. And it's also cool to see them because I love, like I said it earlier, I love seeing everyone just grow. Like being able to start at Wrestling Open with all these people that maybe everyone knew, no one knew who we were, and there are some people there that they didn't know who they were, and now seeing everyone become like really, really good and watching everyone grow with each other, like it's cool to grow with your peers and seeing them. I definitely would love to be able to share the ring with the Church of Greatness again, the current one that we got now. But I need a one-on-one with Brother Greatness.
Yeah, and even going off of that too, because this is super interesting about Wrestling Open, is that a lot of these people I felt were not known before Wrestling Open. I didn't know who Steven Stenson was. I knew who BRG was. Obviously, we briefly were introduced to both you and Kylon because of Uncharted Territory, but really, we didn't get to see much of you, and we didn't get to see much of most of these people. I mean, Brother Greatness, and no disrespect to him, I don't even think he's been around for 10 years, but I don't think people in Worcester knew who he was. And then Wrestling Open happened, and all these top people started showing up, or all these people who were good but never really got an opportunity to show what they could do. I mean, I don't know where Ray Jazz came from, but Ray Jazz is another one. And even Tyree Taylor to some degree, and then Steven Stenson, and then Ryan Clancy. And so what is that like too? Because now you have all these people who never really got a moment to shine. They're on a streaming platform with a brand new concept. And I feel like a lot of people, including yourself, Ichiban, Brad Hollister's a good name to drop there too. Kylon, have all risen to the occasion, and you've now built something in a platform. And I don't know the stats on how Wrestling Open does, but I know it does well on IWTV. And so what is that like? Really an opportunity that's just been like taken, and the ball's been run with.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool, like I said, to see everybody grow. Like it's awesome to see people that maybe I never knew or they never knew who we were. And that's the one thing that I say stands out about Wrestling Open behind the scenes is how healthy the locker room is. It's definitely one of the, if not the healthiest locker rooms I've ever been in wrestling because everyone's there to watch everyone grow. Like there's a monitor in the back and everyone is there watching everyone's matches because you want to help everyone out and you want help from everyone. These are all, we're all peers at the end of the day. There's not really any issues in the locker room, and having all these people that they know they started from, like you said, not knowing who they were. And we started from no one knowing who the hell we were. So now we go here and we walk out and everyone knows who we are and they know what we do and they know what we're capable of. And it's cool to see that. Like, it's just really cool to know where we were a year ago to now where we are now, to like That was only a year. What's going to happen in another year or 2 years or 3 years? Like, it's just really, it's the sky's the limit at this point.
And then even to go further, because one of the things about Wrestling Open that's interesting is that you have some serious veterans there too. I mean, Anthony Green is coming in and out now. Obviously, I mean, you have Ken Doan because they're building, a training school and association. He's Kenny, guys, from the Spirit Squad, in case you didn't know. Um, I have to drop in there. I think you got Thomas Santel is also part of that school. And then you got people like Ava Everett come in and out. I think Willow stops by every once in a while now in some fashion. I know Lufisto is sometimes down at some of these Beyond events. And then obviously, if I didn't mention Alec Price, and there's a few others, Brian Malonis is not too far away. So what is that like too, to have all these people who are veterans, and then you have also people who are brand new or 5 years in, because it creates a really healthy environment where you could pick somebody's brain in the back. And, if AG's around, who's been doing this and has been killing it in Japan, obviously his WWE stuff was great. I think he just had a few Impact matches. You could pick somebody's brain that could really give you good advice. And it makes such a cool, I guess, promotion, because you have the young guns coming up, all these people who are really good, and then you have the veterans who are really also really good, who've been around the block.
No, absolutely. It's definitely great to have like people that are better than you. And that's what me and Kylon say made us this year. You have to wrestle people that are better than you. It's great to wrestle people that are on your level, obviously, because you get to grow and help each other out. But the only way you're going to get better is by wrestling people that are better than you. So that's why it's good to have, like you said, these like Beyond originals come in and do seminars and then wrestle some of the talents and do stuff like that. And like you said, having guys like AG, even guys like Brad Hollister. Like I used to watch him at NEW all the time. That used to be the company that I would go to as a kid and watch independently. And that's what really got me into independent wrestling. So, and I used to watch him there. So now being able to see him at Open and see what he does and then be able to wrestle him sometimes, like it's definitely cool to have guys like that. Like I wrestled AG before he went to Japan, and now seeing him at Open, he's always there to help people out. And one of the guys that I would love to see at Open that is one of the most helpful guys in a locker room is Speedball, Mike Bailey. Like whenever you like whatever locker room we happen to share a lot of locker rooms with him now, and he is just one of the most helpful guys like ever. Like he's always there watching everyone's matches, and whether you want him to or not, he's gonna come up to you and tell you what he thought about your match, and you just shut up and listen because he knows what he's talking about. He's been there, like he's been where we want to be. That's the one thing, you have to listen to people that are where you want to be or have been where you want to be. So I definitely think that having those guys come in and help out the guys that Open is great.
Best piece of advice that I ever got from somebody was Logan Easton. And he was telling a story about Matt Hardy. He was in a locker room with Matt Hardy. And he said, "Hey, could you go take a look at my match?" And then Matt Hardy was critiquing it. And then he said, "But I was trying to do this." And then Matt Hardy said, "Yeah, you're right, kid. Good luck." And Matt Hardy left. And the point is that, there's a time and place to say something, and there's a time and place to shut up. And understanding when somebody's doing something, if they're honestly critiquing it. If somebody is taking what you're doing and destroying it with no merit, that's not going to benefit you. But if somebody's saying, "Hey, I like what you did on that suplex, but I needed you to sell it. Maybe you could have looked at the crowd a little bit more," obviously when people are better than you, you should just shut up sometimes and just listen. And you could ask questions, but it's a very good piece of advice. And sometimes I've messed up and I haven't listened. And other times I'm smart enough to shut up and I'm like, okay. Because you can always not take the advice. But if you say, "Okay, I see your point," and then you listen, you don't look like an asshole. So that's all I'm going to say. But super interesting in that regard. But I do want to talk about the rivalry that you had. And there's two technically, but the main event rivalry was brewing all year long. All year long. It started, I think, at Wrestling Open 1, maybe even the soft opening, and then it's gone through everybody. It's gone through Brad Hollister. I think the Circus Ninjas were in there somehow with Nolo Catano, which is crazy. Eliminator Cup matches. I think, part of like Max Caster was involved in a few of those matches. And then, yeah, it's just gone on forever. And it has gone with I think, Wasted Youth was involved in a match too, and with Ichiban and Kylon, and it's gone through every possible match ever. And it's like made up, I think, like 25% of all your matches in Wrestling Open history last year. And so what is this like? Because it has led to a massive event, which was War Games. And that was crazy because I don't think there's ever been a steel cage match in the White Eagle. It was a crazy match. It's gone through Thanksgiving, and then pretty much we had War Games on one of the last Wrestling Opens of the year. And so what was this like to really put a nail into this entire rivalry? Because it's one hell of a rivalry.
Yeah, well, we didn't really know it was gonna be what it ended up being in the beginning. We wrestled them on episode one, and again, guys that we knew of, obviously, because we knew of the main event, watching them at Uncharted, literally seeing them in their Discovery Gauntlet matches, and then being able to wrestle them at episode one, which was time limit draw, which we thought nothing of. We were like, oh well, all right, we'll run it back sometime, and we'll get a winner. And then for a company, Black Label Pro, up in Indiana, we were asked to go wrestle up there. And the guy that ran the place, because we were going to drive up, and he was like, I know main event's going up there. Do you want to ride up with them? I know you guys are in the same area. And we didn't really know them. So we ended up riding up with them, this 13-hour car ride. You can't be quiet the whole time. So we were talking, just, talking about life and wrestling and whatnot. And we became really, really, really good friends, became really close, really quick. Because people say you learn the most in the car rides. That's where you learn the most about everything. Like the wrestling is just what you go do because that's what you know how to do. Everything else is much more beneficial. So having this stuff where we're really good friends, having really good matches with each other, and when we main evented the Palladium show, that was an awesome match that we had with them. Like we had so many different encounters. Like at the Beyond show, we had I forgot the Demolition Derby match, like you said, with the Circus Ninjas. Wasted You, like all these guys, like, and it was just like we didn't know at the time that it was gonna turn into like, wait, we wrestled them here, 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 here. We didn't keep track of how many times we wrestled them. So then when they did the whole thing where they got with Pedro and now they want our belts, and now Ichiban's doing his thing with Brad, and now Brad got involved with Pedro, and then Ichiban gets involved with us, and then Pedro gets involved with Bobby Orlando, and now it's like these 8 guys now are like hating each other, and we're like, okay, here we go, steel cage, and like to main event, like the Last Stand was huge. Like that was an atmosphere on like all of us will never forget. Like it was the biggest crowd of Wrestling Open history, and the atmosphere was just insane because throughout that entire match, that crowd was not giving in. They were just hot the entire time, and to be able to finally to end it like that was amazing because that was. It was all this whole year's worth of like hard work put into that there, you can't put a price on it. It was amazing.
Because one of the things that there was so much history, right? And this is one of the critiques I have with comic books right now is that there's not a buildup and there's not a payoff. And even with WWE and AEW to some degree, and sometimes Impact is that great, we're building, but we don't have a 6-month or a 12-month rivalry. John Cena versus Edge was almost 18 months of a buildup, and then it took 3 months off or 4 months off, and then they reignited it, and then it cooled off. But you had this history, and you had this whole, buildup to a point of back and forth, and that's what this felt like, where as it was progressing and as we were getting to the Last Stand, and even going into the Last Stand, it was like, oh, I get that now we've had a year's worth of matches that have built to this critical point. And you then have, the whole thing of when, Brian Malonis comes in and he's facing Ichiban. And now you have all this stuff building, and now it means something because whoever's going to win this match is going to be shooting out and taking a pivot, and whoever loses is also going to be taking a pivot. And now this is going to reset everything and set people on different paths. Not saying they can't cross again, but this is going to end it, and it's going to be a while before these teams face off again against each other. And it meant something, is my point. And that's something that I think is really lacking in wrestling, is having something being meaningful and having real stakes attached to it and having consequences for actions.
Yeah, it absolutely meant something. Like there were so many different motives that were in this whole, like you said, this whole rivalry. There were so many things that happened. Like Ichiban speaking for the first time, that was huge. I think that was a bigger reaction than the match. Like I've never been in the ring and felt that before. When he said Steel Cage Warfare, that place absolutely lit up, and they knew that it was going to be serious. Like I think when he said that, that's when everyone was like, "Oh, this is like really serious," because they had all these separate feuds that we knew of, like Pedro and Bobby, Ichi and Brad, and us in main event. But having them all collide and then collide in a steel cage, it was just, it was like just, it's just amazing. I can't put another word on it. Then it was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah, no, and I thought it was a great match. I thought it was really, really well done. And I thought just the concept of it was great. I thought the poster was great. I think it was Full Metal Jacket, right? That poster. I think. I know it was
I believe so.
I mean, the poster was great, and I know
Oh,
that
awesome.
that was cool, and the whole concept, and it really kicked off the festival, right?
Yeah,
And so, what was that like too? Because I think that if the match flopped, and I'll be very honest, I don't think the festival would have been as good. I think that that Wrestling Open was very crucial to setting the tone and setting the attitude of how the festival was going to go. And I think that match in particular was, a big push for everybody else on that card. Because I think without having that match and having the right kickoff, it would not have been a good other 7 shows.
yeah. Out of all the 9 shows, like Wrestling Open drew the most. And that means a lot to all of us because, like, again, going back to how much work we put into this brand, like wrestling every single week there, let alone on top of all the other bookings we have over the weekend. We're here every single Thursday busting our ass to make this fan base grow and to have the biggest draw and to have break the record attendance that we've had in previous time. And to get the reaction that it got, I definitely think it was a fairy tale ending. Like it couldn't have went any better. That was the perfect way to end the year. And now we're on to next year's festival to top it.
Yeah, no, I think it was really good. I mean, I'll be very honest, 9 shows in 3 days is a lot. It's a lot, and I don't think
Mhm.
people are fully aware. It's a lot to watch. It's a lot to watch. I mean, I watched like 5 of them. I really couldn't watch anymore. I watched Heavy Lies the Crown. I watched
Mhm.
um I watched part of Limitless's show, and then I watched Prestige because it's the Motor City Machine Guns versus the American Wolves. I mean, how can you not
Yeah,
watch that? That's just
yeah,
legendary. That's old school Impact Wrestling for you.
yeah,
Um, it's so good. Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin are just so good. They're just so good. It's unbelievable. And Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards. Eddie Edwards is crazy good. Um, but I digress. Um, and yeah, but yeah, no, I thought Wrestling Open was the right way how to kick it off. I don't think another show should have been in that time slot. And I think that match and also just the build up and the seriousness of it was just so wonderful, especially when Ichiban spoke and the lead up to it. Because we all knew something was coming. Nobody knew it was going to be a War Games match.
yeah.
And let's be realistic, War Games matches are really, really popular right now. I mean,
No,
if
yeah, they're
you
definitely popular.
yeah, what were we saying? I'm sorry.
They're definitely very popular matches, and they're rare because they see how they do it, in WWE, and they do it very very well because that's their match. And doing it in one ring, having 8 guys all together in one ring is a lot of people. That's a lot of people in a match, and the way that they run it, where you have the 2 guys start and then one and one and one and one and one, and then when everyone's in the ring, then the bell rings. Like that's a lot of wrestling, and for fans to be so into that, it's just respect towards the fans because they want. That's how bad it shows that they wanted to see that match happen.
Yeah, no, it was a good match. It was a good match, and it was also super interesting because I was very intrigued on how they were going to do it, and I think that it was done very well. I think the concept of it, and even just a one-on-one and in one ring, because I've never seen a War Games match in one ring, and I was like, this is cool. This is interesting. This is
Yeah.
really interesting. I've seen a bunch of variations of it, like H2O does it a different way than Wrestling
Mhm.
Open does it, and that was interesting too. But super interesting. But I thought it was a great match. And then obviously, before we talk about the rest of the festival, I do want to talk about that Wheeler Yuta match too. because I think that was a big deal for you. And I think it also put you on the map in a lot of ways. I think it put you on the map as a great wrestler. I think it also said you could hang. Also, it sort of came full circle. And obviously, Wheeler Yuta is just fantastic as a wrestler and everything he does. But also, I think that it invertedly also helps Kyle to some degree, and it puts a lot of eyes on both of you. And so, what is that like? Because now people are like, oh, I get it. He can hang, and your stock goes up, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that match was awesome. Like that was the first time that the record attendance really broke. That's when we had a record attendance crowd next to obviously the rest of them. But that was huge. It was unexpected to get that match. I was not expecting to have that match at all. But like you said, it paid off to what happened at American Rana. Like that moment at American Rana was just as big as the match because it was these wrestling open guys or these current Beyond guys that are going against these OG Beyond guys. You know, these indie guys going against the AW guys. It's just this face off that really didn't like. There was really no physical altercation there at all, besides Eddie Kingston maybe pushing someone. But like that was really it. There was no need to fight, and that's how fans were like, "Wow, I need all these matches to happen." You know, like, and then you get Alec and Ortiz. How many times have they wrestled now, like at Open and beyond? Like they've had these now almost a series now, and they having these banger matches. And then to get it to pay off with me and Yuta, like that match was just unbelievable. It was nerve wracking. I wasn't even nervous about the match. I was more nervous about the crowd reaction, in all honesty, because I knew that they knew who I was, obviously, because I'm there every week.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
So
Wheeler Yuta.
let's talk about that too, because you have the new kids coming up, and you have the establishment, and that is a very interesting thing because sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it works really, really poorly, and sometimes crowds can be weird about it, right? I mean, you've seen it in wrestling where the heel gets cheered and the face gets booed. And you've also seen it where the people who were there every weekend Wrestling Open might be wrestling somebody like Wheeler Yuta, like you did, and you might get booed. And it's complicated. And you also don't want to not be prepared for it. You don't want to mess up the match. You don't want to look foolish because you're wrestling a guy in AEW, and a lot of people are looking at you. A lot of people know who Wheeler Yuta is, and it's a very pressurized situation because you have a lot of things that are unknown in that match. And so, what was that like? And then you delivered a great match on it, a great match. And what was that like? Because now it's kind of like a feather in your cap saying, cool, I can hang with Wheeler Yuta and we can have a great match. And the fans are into this type of match. And it also opens up doors, I feel, not just for you, but for also other AEW guys to come in and other wrestlers who, are at the beginning of their careers, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it was not knowing what the crowd was gonna be like was very nerve wracking. I wasn't even focused on the match. I was just like, this is like if the crowd's not into it, it's not gonna be a good match. So that's another going back to what I said about building our own fan base. Like when I walked out the curtain, I was like, and the reaction that I got was as big as I got. I was shocked because that was our fan base, and there was the hardcore Beyond Wrestling fans that were there to cheer for Yuta. So before the belly rang, it was like, let's go Flash, let's go Yuta, let's go Flash, let's go Yuta, and the Flash chants were from our open crowd, and then the Yuta chants were from the Beyond crowd. So it was just these fans going at it as well. So that really motivated me more than anything. Just being out there. You can go back and watch, but I came out first. Hearing Yuta's music hit was what got me into the zone even more because I would be at Uncharted watching him wrestle like last year, and I would see him come out and have these absolutely killer matches. And hearing that theme hit when I was in the ring, I was just like, this is insane. Like it really hit me that this was happening. And hearing how into it the crowd was the entire match. And throughout the entire thing, they were just going and going and going until the match was over. So I have no regrets about that match. I've watched it back, and it's an amazing match. I enjoy it so
Yeah,
much.
to even go further into that too, because one of the things that I was speaking, and I've spoken to a bunch of wrestlers in a lot of different areas, and a lot of people say you need to be on a streaming platform. You don't need to be on a video on demand platform because let's be realistic. There are more people watching Wrestling Open, streaming it and seeing it every Thursday night and tweeting about it, engaging than there are at the White Eagle. And it's
yeah.
just the way it is because you could stream to 10,000 people a lot easier than having 10,000 people. It's nothing against the White Eagle. I don't want anybody to think that in my question, but one of the things is that because there's also that audience too. And you don't get to see that audience while you're wrestling, but also it's on demand, it's on IWTV. And so what is that like? Because at any point, and for instance, there will get to a point, hopefully, that there's going to be the best of Dustin Waller on IWTV or the best of Wheeler Yuta Volume 2 on IWTV or the best of Wrestling Open. And all this stuff will eventually come. And so what is that like for you too? Because now you're getting etched into history and it's also very accessible. And so anytime somebody who hasn't seen this match, they can now see this match. And while they're not going to see it live, they can still see it. And you've rewatched it. I rewatched it, in prepping up for this interview. And then people say, cool. And then you have, obviously, people are going to Google Wheeler Yuta and they're like, cool, this match. And so what is that like for you? Because it does live on forever beyond just that one showing. And so I'm very curious, what is that like for you? And it's not just this match, it's a bunch of your matches. I mean, the War Game match, too, in a lot of ways, lives on beyond just that match. And it has a lot of weight. And it's also kind of a showcase of what you can do in a ring.
Yeah, I definitely think streaming platforms are very important. And I think IWTV is huge because, like you said, not everyone lives in Worcester. Not everyone can be at Worcester. Some people live hours and hours away and miles away, but they have IWTV. They still want to watch the show. Same thing with other companies that are farther. Like for me, whenever I get the notification that a show is live, I click on it and I watch if I'm not doing anything because, I want to show support to the same people that show support to us. And like you said on Twitter, people will take a bunch of clips from the matches and post them online and tweet about how they feel about it. And they use the hashtags. Like it's really cool to see people that obviously aren't there and use the streaming platform to grow your own fan base because at the end of the day, that's how it is now. You gotta be on social media. You gotta have some kind of following to be known other than being seen in person. So when people talk about you and they share these clips of you and then it goes viral or whatever, and like they're like, oh, this guy's good, this girl's good, let's see this, let's see that. Oh, they're live on this thing. It's $10 a month, and there's hundreds of thousands of hours on IWTV to watch so much wrestling,
Than
so
that,
much good wrestling.
A year. You should buy the year thing. It's even cheaper than that, guys.
Absolutely. Like IWTV is definitely worth it because there's so much wrestling to watch. And now they don't even have just wrestling. Like now they're doing the life of, and they give the guys and girls a GoPro and they post their life behind the wrestling scene and what they do and to go into wrestling. So it's so much. There's so much on IWTV to watch that I think it's definitely worth it, 100%.
I'm just waiting for them to really just build out a bunch of shoot injuries. I mean, they're going to be building out a lot more content. It's going to get really interesting what they're going to do, and I think it's a great platform. And if you're looking for wrestling, there's only a few others out there that are similar to IWTV, and they're all really the same price at the end of the day. And it's just it's a golden age of wrestling. Indie wrestling is in its golden age, where 5 years ago you needed to have WWE Network. Now you don't need to have that because independent wrestling is so big and there's so many promotions. I think IWTV does like 200 shows a year. They like live stream or they have it on VOD, which is crazy. It's insane what they do. But enough about that because I do want to talk about partially the rest of the Restival. And there's three things that I want to talk about and Blitzkrieg. So that was crazy because you got your first gold, I think, at Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, that was big. We've been at Blitzkrieg for a little bit longer than we've been at Open and Beyond, and Blitzkrieg is really what helped us get into Open and get into Beyond. That's what really helped us get into that Discovery Gauntlet because we wrestled Shit Crew again at Blitzkrieg, and that's when I think we really got seen because that's when again people put on Twitter and said, "Oh, these guys are like." Who were these guys facing Shit Crew? Like this was a really good match. Like I think we had like a 35-minute match, and it wasn't a recorded show, so we just went absolutely crazy for the people that were there, and they told everyone on social media what they thought about it. And since then, we've been at Blitzkrieg, and it's so much fun because it's local. It's in Connecticut, and even when it's in Mass, it's not that far. But they're in Connecticut, and that's where we live. So it's closer to us. It's rare that there are shows in Connecticut that run, and we've been there for, like I said, like a little over a year now. So to have that gold be won, to finally get the tag titles at the Festival was huge, and it was an awesome moment, especially to share the ring with the guys that we did.
And I think that was the ladder match, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But what was that like too? Because winning the belts, in my opinion, in a traditional match is cool. And don't get me wrong, it's fun. But when you're winning a belt in a ladder match or a chairs match or a hardcore match or an
yeah,
Iron Man match, there's something more special to it. And so when you're climbing up a ladder or you're jumping off a ladder to win your belt, it's kind of means something. And I would imagine it's more special and also allows you to showcase something that you may not get to showcase every day, nor do you want to showcase it every day. So what was that like? Because it definitely was cool. It was also a big special event, the Festival at Blitzkrieg and all that stuff. So what was that like? Because it sort of sets a tone of what your title defenses are going to look like.
yeah. I do believe that was like again another first ever. I don't think there was a ladder match in the White Eagle before. So that was a lot of fun to be able to have that kind of match because you don't get to have ladder matches every week. Like it's not something that you get to do or that's something that you want to do every week. But it's fun when like it's the rare occasion of like, hey, we're gonna throw these four teams together and they all want the belts. So let's hang above the ring and have them fight with some ladders. And like it's really cool because it's a different aspect for the fans because maybe they were like, oh, I'm seeing a ladder match today. That's pretty cool. And obviously the fans are into that match, like you said, more than a traditional match because they want to see new champions or they want to see the same champions retain, but now they want to see it with these with these more rules now. So it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then obviously you got the belts, and that
Yeah,
was cool. And then obviously the other thing that I want to talk about with the Festival is you were wrestling, and I forget exactly who you were wrestling, but you got injured in one of the
yes,
matches, and it was a pretty serious injury where you went down. I was speaking a little bit before we went live about it because I thought it looked like a work. It wasn't a work. You had a bunch of stitches in your head. Um, and it definitely derailed a match with Violence is Forever. But what happened with that? Because I don't think it was anybody's fault. What happened, it was just one of those freak things that happens in wrestling. And so,
yeah. It was in our the T4 Summit. It was in our tournament match. We had one literally a few minutes before we wrestled at Infinity and Beyond, and that match was a lot of fun. And literally like 10 minutes later, us and Culture Rank in the semifinals, and the match was awesome. It was going great, and we picked up the win, and that's all I care about because we were in the finals. So it was when we did me and Kailan's our finishing move. I did the lethal injection. He had the German suplex, and when I had the lethal injection, we just headbutted, and you can watch it back. We just his head hit mine, and there's really nothing that it was like one of those things like it's a freak accident like that happens, but people say it all the time, like wrestling is not ballet. It's you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get injured. Like you can't go into wrestling saying I don't want to get injured. You're going to have injuries. You're gonna have serious injuries. Hopefully you don't have anything too serious, but it was pretty serious. All I knew was that when I looked down, I just see blood. I saw blood just pouring like water, and I was like, "Oh, this ain't good. This is not good at all." And I hear the three count, and I was like, "Well, I guess we won." But like shit, here we are. And so I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was my eye. I didn't know if it was my nose. So all I'm doing is just this. You can just see me like this, trying to cover where the area was. And I just look at Kai and I was like, how bad is it? And he's like, oh my God, like this is not good. And I was like, Jesus, like this. I didn't know how bad it was. So I get to the back and people are looking at me and they're just like everyone's face just starts to drop. And that's when I'm like, this is really bad. Because I didn't see it actually until it was all stitched up. I didn't want to see what it looked like. So
so
there,
what
thank
was
God
this?
there was some.
Because what was this like in the back? Because obviously you're in the finals. I think you
Yeah,
had one more booking that you didn't do that day. I think either Ichiban or somebody else filled in for you. In a match that you were supposed to be part of that you were there after support. But what was that even like? Because now you're in the middle of the Festival and you're injured and you know you have a match at Heavy Lies the Crown and it's a big deal.
yeah.
And what is this like? Because maybe if it was a bruise and it wasn't terrible, you sit out a match and you're okay. But then,
Hmm.
you know, you look at it and you're like, oh shit, I got 10, 15 stitches in my head. There's no way in hell anybody's going to let me wrestle.
Yeah,
And
it was definitely one of those like thoughts of, hey, like I don't know how bad this is, but thank God there was someone back there. His name's Ryan, and he goes to every Wrestling Open show, and I'm thankful for my life for him because he had stitches on him, and he said I can stitch you up right now if you want me to, and I can just so you don't have to go to the ER and be there for however many freaking hours you're gonna be there. And 35 minutes later, like I'm in the locker room, and the locker room turned into a surgery room, and he started stitching me up, and it bled into the Prestige show, which I felt awful about because you got the Prestige show now going on, and one of the locker rooms is blocked off because I'm getting my face sewed together, and altogether it was my entire eyebrow. The entire eyebrow just split completely open. It was like 25 plus stitches. So it was it was disgusting. I think I've posted the cut on my social media. So if you want to see it, you can, but it's gross. It's honestly disgusting. Like, and we had Limitless that next day before Heavy Lies the Crown. So it was going to be me, Kylon and Ichiban versus MSP and Ace Romero. So I believe someone took my spot, but Kai and Ichi still wrestled, and I was there. My goal was obviously to still wrestle on Heavy Lies the Crown, but then like people started seeing me like, how many stitches was it? I'm like 25, and they're just like, well, it's like it's your eyebrow. If I just do this, it can open. I don't. It's not even about getting hit. It's just about making a simple facial expression. If you lift your eyebrow, it can rip open because it's such a deep cut. So it was just a lot of like, I'm gonna wrestle, I'm gonna do it, but then I go to the back and I'm like, oh, maybe like I'm 21 years old. Like people always say, like, you know, you gotta take care of your body, and like if I don't wrestle tomorrow, it's not gonna be the end of the world. I'm not gonna, you know, my career's not gonna be over. But you know, like I said, it is what it is. Wrestling, you know, like I said, it's not ballet. Stuff is going to happen.
and then this led into the issue of violence is forever, and obviously that has been brewing for a year. And
Yeah,
then
that was the only downside was how it was no one like it went from nobody knowing who we are to wrestling these guys to now everyone knows who we are, and now we're defending our home. So I think I believe that everything truly does happen for a reason. So it leads to having a bigger match on a bigger stage. And, you know, it's going to happen. It just couldn't happen then. But Kylon gave the fight of his life. And I like being able to watch that. He, he made everyone so proud because everyone thought it was just going to be a quick one and done. It was a good 8 minutes. He was in there just having a handicap match. And it was one of the best handicap matches I think I've ever seen.
Because it was a crazy situation. I mean, they brought you out, and clearly you were in no shape to wrestle. And then you came out, and everybody thought that was going to be the distraction, and it was going to be like a steal. And there was a lot of story being played in it, considering the situation. And I don't think, and I love studying wrestling psychology. It's just something that I thoroughly enjoy. I like when people do things in a match purposely to set something up. My favorite moment is when Seth Rollins versus Triple H. And then basically he set up a table later on for Stephanie to go through. Seth Rollins did. I thought it was brilliant in the psychology element of wrestling. But that's what I thought it was going to end up being, is that you were going to come out, be the distraction, and Kylan was going to get a 1, 2, 3 quick roll up and sort of take a heel, you know, cheating win over Violence is Forever. And I thought it was great. And I thought the locker room coming out was great too, trying to prevent you from going in the ring. I thought it was well done given the circumstance.
Yeah, definitely with what happened. It wasn't even like more of a story because that's as real as it gets. Like I wasn't able to wrestle, and like it sucked. Really, it really, really sucked. Like me and Kai have said it. We don't ever want to feel like that ever again. Like we feel like I personally, I felt like that this entire year of just working was for absolutely nothing because that was our last show of the year, and it was supposed to, like, win, lose, or draw, whether we won the belts or not. It was going to be this moment of we wrestled these guys a year to the day of when no one knew who we were. So now everyone knows who we are, and this is our house now. So, but you know, I think it happened the way it was supposed to happen. And like you said, it was a very captivating story, and everyone was very into it throughout the entire match.
Yeah, no, and obviously, I'm sure at some point there's going to be a rematch. I'm sure at some point
Oh yeah,
it's a money fight is really what it looks like. And
oh,
so obviously
absolutely.
it's going to be a good one, and it's going to be the main event. wherever it takes place, whether that's BLP, whether that's, I don't know where else Violence is Forever wrestles. It could be at a Beyond show. It could be anywhere for that point, because
It could be at Wrestling Open. Like it doesn't matter where it is.
I mean, it's going to be a money fight. It's going to be a main event
Yeah.
fight, and it's going to be great. And I think that is going to blow everything off. And who knows? Maybe it'll turn into more than just one fight, because there's a lot of issues that have to be worked out. Is a nice way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's more than one match, let's bring it on. Let's do it.
And so obviously, I mean, that's your entire year in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't see Wrestling Open last week. I was at the movies, everybody. I don't watch Wrestling Open every week. I miss one or two a year. But I know that I think this is the third week is tomorrow. The third show of the year is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
And another, like they just announced the match that we're having earlier today. It's us and Brick City Boys for the Eliminator Cup Tag Team titles. So
lot of
another
history.
match.
Yeah, a lot of history.
Yes, that's one of those matches that I feel like the rivalry is never going to end because we wrestle. I think we've wrestled Brick City more than any other team we've wrestled. It's between them and MSP. We've wrestled them so many times, and it's not just that open or beyond. We wrestled Brick City everywhere, and we know each other more than we know any other team. So I think it's always great when we share the ring with each other because we always push each other, we always test each other, and you truly never know who's going to win. So tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, and it's going to be a good match. You know, obviously, I like the Brick City Boys. I think that they are a fun team to watch, and I'm excited to see them wrestle. I'm excited to see you two wrestle, and it's going to be a great match because it always is. And same thing with MSP. It's always a good match with MSP.
Yeah.
It's hard not to have a good match with MSP.
Yeah.
I mean, Danger Kid. Danger Kid is like a freaking shapeshifter. He's just his hair changes so much in a match. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it. It blows my mind. I look at my phone for 1 second and his hair is in a different style, and then I look back on my phone and it's back to normal. And I'm like, how did this happen? It's just terrible. It's just terrible. But I digress. I don't want to comment anymore on Danger Kid's hair. Maybe I'm a little jealous. I don't know. It's an issue I'm working through, everybody. But anyway, I do want to back out of your year, and we did speak about this, but I am curious where you see the state of wrestling going, because obviously, I mean, my view is that indies, they're not destroying AEW or WWE or Impact or any major promotion, but they definitely have carved out enough that it is a viable business if you do it the correct way. And I'm curious how you feel about it. And I feel like Fight TV has done some of that. I feel like even just live streaming on YouTube has done some of that. Twitch has done some of that. And then obviously, you know, IWTV also has done that. So I'm curious your opinion, because I am a fan, and I guess I'm an educated fan. I'm a commentator to some degree and commentating on all this, but you're a wrestler in the business, and I'm kind of looking into it and you're looking out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely hearing it like that. I've always like people are always telling me, for example, like how oh, you don't know how big Wrestling Open is, and you really don't because when you're a part of something, looking at it out, I still feel like it's just Wrestling Open. But some people are like, this is like becoming one of the biggest indies right now. But like I don't see that because I'm a part of it and I'm just having fun and I'm going with the ride. So I think all wrestling is great wrestling. Like I think now if you want to watch wrestling, it's impossible not to watch wrestling. It's impossible. You have WWE, you have AEW, and WWE and AEW have shows throughout the entire week. You got Dynamite, you got Rampage, you got Dark, you got Elevation, you got Raw, you got SmackDown, you got Main Event, you got NXT, you got all just for those two companies. Then you got Impact and you got NWA. And now you have all these independents. You have IWTV, Fight Plus. Like if you cannot watch independent wrestling, I don't know what you're not trying. You're not trying at all. Like you can watch. There's so much wrestling, like for all types of flavor. There's so many different flavors of ice cream and wrestling, and if you like a certain flavor, you will find it. And it's pretty much just on your phone for free. Go to YouTube, look up anything, and you'll find it. Like there's so much wrestling out. I think wrestling is the best it's ever been because competition's always good, whether it's in the big leagues or it's here on the indies. Like there's always competition and it's always good and it's healthy. So I definitely think wrestling is at one of the better states that it's ever been at.
Oh yeah, I think there's something for everybody. I mean, I am into a lot of weird wrestling, and there's a lot of stuff. And then I'll throw something that's gonna maybe get us in a little trouble, but there's a big custom wrestling market also. So if there's two people you like and you want to see a match, you can pay for it. It exists, and you know what it is? It's good wrestling, and you'd be surprised who's doing it and how they're doing it, and you'd be surprised what wrestlers have done it. There's some top people in WWE who have done some custom wrestling. And, I'm just saying it's a market. So if you don't think it exists, you can make it exist, is my point. And
Yeah.
it's a fascinating world we live in, but I digress. I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself, though, because it's been for an hour, 5 minutes, a lot of wrestling open, a lot of the year you had, which has been an amazing year. I'm excited to see what you do next. This year in particular, because I'm just waiting for the Violence Is Forever match. I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna tear down the house. It's gonna tear
Yeah.
down the house, but I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find you? Social media, bother you, see you wrestle, pro wrestling tees, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, my Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok are all at It's Dustin Waller. You can find me on YouTube at Dustin Waller, and my pro wrestling tees, it's prowrestlingtees.com/Dustin Waller.
This would be the point in the show we would play Flash, but I don't have the rights to that. Yeah, I really do not want a legal lawsuit today. I was thinking about it. But there you go. So everybody could imagine in their head that point. But I've been saying it, and I'm going to keep saying it. In all seriousness, though, and you need to support, and you need to financially support the things you like. So if you like wrestling and you like promotions, you need to support it by watching those shows, by tweeting, by interacting. If you like a particular wrestler, you should probably follow them on social media. It's a big deal to follow people on social media, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook pages. Also, if you like a wrestler, you should go and basically watch them wrestle. What a concept, right? And also, you should probably buy their T-shirt, buy their merch. It makes a difference whether you buy it at a show, buy it on Pro Wrestling Tees, because sometimes you can't make it to a show. All of that is really, really important, and it makes a huge difference because it actually allows them to continue to wrestle and make a living doing this. And if they're making a living doing this, they can do it for a lot longer, or perhaps they can go to another show or it covers their gas because it's rough out there. So that's a big thing, and you need to support people and promotions in that regard. As far as I'm concerned about me, obviously all my social media is down below. It's Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. YouTube is Pop Anime Comics. And subscribing to YouTube is super helpful so you don't miss any of the interviews I do. I do anywhere from 130 to 160 interviews a year across various platforms and people. So there's an interview for you on my channel. I also have a t-shirt making fun of Gundam and Taco Bell. It's an awesome t-shirt because I do like Taco Bell. I like Gundam. I'm an anime guy. I'm a comic guy. So if you would like, it's in the description up above, down below, or to the side. Super cool. It's in 16 different colors and like 4 or 5 different styles of shirts. So you can pick whatever you want. Totally customizable on Redbubble. And then I buy me a coffee. So if you like to support independent media, which is what I am, you're more than welcome to buy me a coffee. It's kind of cool, but it's not necessary. I really appreciate, though, when people do check out my social media and follow me on social media because it makes a huge difference to me. And I appreciate when people share out my interviews more than anything else. So that's all I have. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Well, I really do appreciate you having me on. It's greatly appreciated. It's a good talk, and can't wait to do it again sometime, maybe down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is a perfect place to end, everybody. And that is a wrap.